Good afternoon, scholars. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to look at comparing fractions that have like denominators. That means the denominators are the same. It's pretty easy to do comparison of fractions once the denominators are the same, right? For fractions that have the same denominator, the larger fraction has the larger numerator. So in other words, once the bottom numbers are the same, you just look at the numerators, and the one that has the bigger numerator is the bigger fraction. Let's see why that is so though. So let's say we have 3/4, 1/4, and 2/4. Okay? If we were to draw shapes, so let's say we're drawing squares, we're cutting them up into 4 because that is what the denominator tells us where to cut it into, right? They all have the same denominator, which is 4. So for this one, we would shade 3 out of the 4. For the quarter, we would shade 1 part out of the 4. And for the 2/4, which is the same as a half, we would shade 2 parts out of the 4. Now, I want you to look at them carefully. Look at those fractions that we've drawn. For the 3/4, 3 parts out of 4. A quarter, 1 part out of 4. 2/4 or a half, 2 parts out of 4. Which one is the bigger share? Let's say you were told there are 3 cakes on the table, and you love cake, right? 3 cakes on the table. Go and choose the one that you want. The 3 cakes have already had pieces taken off. So the parts that are shaded are the parts that are left back. Which cake would you want to eat? Which cake do you think, which cake is the bigger cake, the biggest cake, right? You love cake, so you'd want the biggest cake. Which one is the biggest? Obviously the one with 3 parts of it left and only 1 part taken off. This cake has only a quarter left and 3 parts are taken off. And this cake has a half of it taken off. So you see that 3/4 is the biggest of the 3 diagrams here. So whenever you're comparing fractions with the same denominator, it's different for fractions with different denominators, right? When you're comparing fractions with the same denominator, simply look at the numerator, and the biggest number represents the biggest fraction. So it's pretty straightforward for this. The biggest number at the top, the biggest numerator, would represent the biggest fraction. So we can easily see then that 5, 7, 3, 7, and 1, 7. Which one is the biggest? So when we're comparing 3 things, 3 or more things, we say the biggest. If it is just 2, we say bigger. So which is the biggest of the 3 fractions? They all have the same denominator. That means they're all being cut up into 7 equal parts. Which one represents the share that will get the most? It's not the same whole we're talking about, right? We're comparing different wholes. So this is a different cake, or whatever it is you're sharing of. But who would get the biggest? The one who's getting 5 parts out of 7 would get a bigger share than the one who is getting 3 parts out of the same 7, or 1 part out of the same 7 equal parts, right? So if we're comparing fractions, just look at the numerator once the denominators are the same. So let's do some comparisons then. I'm just giving you two more for this type, and you're going to tell me so we have 895929, which represents the biggest share. The 8, because 8 parts out of 9 would be bigger than 5 parts out of an equal proportion of 9s, or 2 parts. So the 8 over 9 is the biggest. Which of these would represent the biggest? 6 out of 12, 3 parts out of 12, or 11 parts out of 12? Very clearly, the 11 out of 12, right, would be the biggest. So a very simple activity we're going to do now, we're going to use the greater than or less than sign. So this is greater than, and this is less than. We're just going to insert the greater than sign or the less than sign between the two fractions to say which is the bigger of the two. So, I'm just going to write some fractions here. Okay, so let's go now, let's compare the fractions. They all have the same denominator, so it's going to be a breeze for us to compare them. We simply look at the numerator, and the bigger numerator represents the bigger fraction once the denominators are the same. So if the fraction to the left is bigger, we're going to put the greater than sign to say this one is greater than that one. If the one to the left is less than, we're going to put the less than sign to say that it is smaller than the fraction to the right. So this is on the left, this is on the right. 9/10, and we're comparing it with 1/10. Clearly the 9 is bigger than 1, so 9/10 is greater than 1/10. 2/13, 6/13. 6 is bigger than 2, so this one is less than this fraction. 7/11, 5/11, 7 is bigger than 5, so we're going to put the greater than sign to say 7 things out of 11 things is a bigger share than if you just got 5 things out of that 11 things. 6 out of 14 and 1 out of 14. 6 is bigger than 1, so we're going to say that 6/14 is greater than 1/14. 12 out of 16 compared to 11 out of 16. If I'm giving you 12 things out of the 16 that I have, or I'm giving you 11 things, which is the bigger share that you're getting? The 12. So that's 12/16 greater than 11/16. 9/21, 14/21. Which one is the bigger share? So if I have something and I divide it up into 21 equal pieces, which would you prefer to get? The 9 pieces or the 14 pieces? you'd prefer to get the 14, the bigger share. 14 is bigger than 9. So we're going to put the less than sign here to say that 9/21 is less than 14 out of 21. Alright, are you getting the knack of it? So 3/8 compared to 1/8. 3 is bigger than 1. So we put a greater than sign. 3/8 is greater than 1/8. 7/15 compared to 8/15. 7 is less than 8. So we're going to put the less than sign. 9/16, 16/16. Well, clearly 16 is greater than 9. So 9/16 is less than 16 over 16. Alright, let me put a set of fractions here and we're going to arrange them in order from the least to the biggest. So it says arrange from the least to the biggest. So they're all going to have the same denominator, right? We have 5 12, 6 12, 1 12, 12 12s, 3 12s, 9 12s, 8 12s, and 11 12s. So these are the ones we're working with. So let's quickly arrange them from the least to the biggest, right? So from the smallest fraction to the biggest of the set. So clearly 1/12 is the smallest fraction. So we're going to put that first. Then next in line would be the 3/12. Next in line would be 5/12s, followed by 6/12s, followed by, which one comes after the 6 here? It would be the 8/12s, followed by 9/12s, followed by 11/12s, and finally 12/12, which would represent one whole. Any number over itself is one whole. Alright, so to recap, we're comparing fractions, but these fractions have the same denominators. They have like means the same, like denominators. Once the denominators are the same, we simply really just have to compare the numerator. And the bigger the numerator, the bigger the fraction that it represents. So for fractions that have the same denominator, the larger fraction has the larger numerator. And if we're putting the greater than sign or less than sign, we simply compare the numerators. If the bigger numerator is to the left, you put the greater than turning to that numerator. And if the smaller one is to the left, we put the less than sign. Okay, so that's really all there is for comparing fractions. Sometimes you are asked to arrange the fractions in ascending order, which would mean from the least to the biggest, or in descending order from the biggest to the least. So you just have to look, depending on which order they're asking you to put it in. If it is from the least to the biggest, that would be ascending order. So you would start with the smallest numerator, keep going up until you get to the largest. If they want you to arrange from the biggest to the least, or descending order, you do the opposite of that. Start with the biggest one and keep going down till you get to the least one, the smallest one. Alright, so if you have benefited from this video, I'd love for you to share the video with your friends, your classmates, so they may benefit from it as well. And if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so you can get all the other videos that are going to be coming out. If you want me to do a video on a particular topic, just comment, leave a comment so I'll know which topics you'd like me to feature in the videos, and I will gladly do that for you. So I'll see you in the next video.